Greetings. I'm the Reverend Jen Fenner of Epworth United Methodist Church in Gaithersburg, Maryland, and this is Transformed by Faith Today. Acts 2:17 is our chosen scripture for today, continuing with our focus on Pentecost. Perhaps the first thing I want us to remember today is that what happened, that historic moment recorded in Acts 2, was not a one-time event. It was both a fulfillment of promises that had been made and spoken as far back as the prophet Joel, and it was a historical occurrence that ushered in a whole new era of the work of God among the people. Peter actually says in Acts 2:17, in the last days, God says, I will pour out my spirit on all people. In the last days, Peter is making reference to the fact that now that Jesus the Christ has been born and lived and ministered and taught and died and was resurrected and ascended into heaven, we are now entering in this last stage, this stage where Jesus promised us that we would receive a Holy Spirit. This stage where Jesus promised us we would have a comforter, an advocate who would be with us. And so that when we would miss the living presence of Jesus, we would have the living presence of the Holy Spirit. Of course, we know that the Holy Spirit has been present since the beginning of time. It was the Spirit of God that moved over the dark waters and brought forth light. It was the Spirit of God that would fall throughout Old Testament accounts on prophets and on unassuming individuals. But in this season, Peter says, in these last days of this narrative that God is writing over time and space, in these last days, the Spirit will be readily accessible to all people. It will literally pour out on all people. And the presence of this Spirit will enable sons and daughters to prophesy, and young men will see visions, and old men will dream dreams. It's always been meaningful to me that the value in this text is that young men aren't expected to be those who would see visions. Visions are reserved for the wise. Visions are reserved for the elderly. Visions are reserved for those who have lived through life. And yet by the work of the Spirit, the young will have visions of who God is and what God is doing. And it says the old men, the men who in moments believe that their life is finished, the men who believe that they are in the last chapters, those men will dream dreams and live into the dreams that they have. Of course, this text is emphatic in reminding us that it's not just young men who will see visions, but it's young women who will see visions. It's not just old men who will dream dreams, it's old women who will dream dreams. And in this crazy upside down way of looking at the world, there is an extraordinary promise of God's continued unfolding faithfulness. There is an extraordinary promise of God's power that is accessible and not just available, but poured out over top of all people. And there is this promise that when we think we are too young to know, God's Spirit gives us vision. And when we think we are too old to dream, God's Spirit gives us purpose. This Pentecost proclamation from the lips of Peter is one of the most powerful moments in all of Scripture. A moment that literally ties past to present to future. A moment where Peter marks the ushering in of these last days in which the Spirit of God is available. This moment in which Jews have gathered in Jerusalem to give thanks for God's bounty, and in an unexpected way find themselves giving thanks not just for the provision of grain, not just for what God has done through Passover, but giving thanks for this amazingly powerful falling of the Holy Spirit. And so you and I stand in the same legacy, in the invitation to see God past, present, and future as a God that fulfills promises, to see God as a God that is enough to give the young a vision when they think they have no wisdom. God is enough to give the old a dream when they think that their life is done. God is enough to speak through women and men, those whom society has enslaved and those who think they are more. God's Spirit has a radical way of turning upside down what we understand and of calling us forth. And of course, all of this movement of the Spirit is not just to put on a fantastic light show or to entertain those who are gathered, but it is to point their hearts to the unending faithfulness and uncontained power of our God. God is enough, more than enough. Enough for the challenges that we face today, enough for the life that each one of us individually is living into, enough to walk with us through different seasons in history and chapters in our life, enough to pour out in such a way that the uniqueness in each of us contributes to the bigger whole. In the last days, God says, I will pour out my Spirit on all people, and your sons and your daughters will prophesy. Your young will see visions, and your old will dream dreams. Even on my servants, both men and women, I will pour my Spirit, and they will prophesy. Today, if you take this scripture to heart, there is no way to escape the power that God has placed in your life. There is no way to step aside from the purpose that you have. There is no way to not embrace the fullness of God's Spirit over you. God, we thank you that not only do you fulfill promises, not only do you move in supernatural and large ways, but your Spirit empowers each of us uniquely, individually, and in multiple chapters of our life, to walk with you, to serve you, to believe in you, to be used by you. God, open us to the living movement of your Spirit today, that we would never simply read about what has happened, but that we would be a part of the story, God, and open our lives that they would be written upon by your Spirit. Use us today, God, in part of your grand narrative. And keep us mindful, Lord, that your Spirit falls on all. In Jesus' name, amen.